The stars looked cold and empty in this part of space. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship, the USS Defiance, and watched the darkness through the main screen. His ship was small compared to the giant warships that ruled this area. To anyone watching, it looked like an old cargo hauler that had seen better days. Jake was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had been in space for 20 years, but this mission was different from anything he had done before. His ship carried only 12 crew members, but each one was the best at what they did. They had been out here for 3 months, watching and learning about their enemies. Chief Engineer Lisa Park sat at her station, her fingers dancing over the controls. She was young, maybe 30 years old, with short black hair and quick hands. The readings on her screen showed their ship's engines were barely working. At least, that was what anyone scanning them would see. Lisa smiled to herself. The real truth was very different. "Captain," said Danny Cole from the weapons station. Danny was a big man with strong arms and a deep voice. He looked like someone who could break things with his bare hands, but he was actually very good at fixing broken machines. "The sensors are picking up something big heading our way." Jake walked over to Danny's station and looked at the screen. 3 red dots were moving toward them, fast. Each dot was a Zephyrian destroyer, part of the empire that had ruled this part of space for 300 years. The Zephyrians were tall, thin aliens with blue skin and 4 arms. They thought they were better than every other race in the galaxy. "How long until they reach us?" Jake asked. 20 minutes, maybe less, Danny said. "They are moving fast." Amy Brooks looked up from her communication station. She was a small woman, with blonde hair and bright eyes that missed nothing. "Captain, I am picking up their radio signals. They think we are a broken cargo ship. They are planning to capture us." Jake nodded. This was what they had been waiting for 4 months. His ship had been pretending to be a simple cargo hauler. They had made their engines look weak and their weapons look old. The Zephyrians saw them as easy prey, something to capture and steal from. But the USS Defiance was not what it seemed to be. Hidden under fake metal panels were some of the most advanced weapons humans had ever built. The ship's real engines could move faster than anything the Zephyrians had ever seen. And most important of all, they had technology that could fool any scanner in the galaxy. "Lisa, how are our systems?" Jake asked. Lisa checked her screens again. "All weapons are ready, Captain. The gravity drive is working perfectly, and our sensor scramblers are running at full power. They still think we are just a cargo ship with engine problems." The sensor scramblers were Lisa's greatest achievement. These machines could learn how alien scanners worked and then send back false information. To the Zephyrians, the Defiance looked like it was falling apart. They could not see the real weapons or the powerful engines hidden inside. Jake walked back to his captain's chair and sat down. He had been preparing for this moment his whole life. Earth had sent him and his crew to this part of space for one reason: to see if humans could fight the Zephyrian Empire and win. So far, no other race had been able to stand against them. The Zephyrians had better technology than most species. Their ships were fast and their weapons were strong. But Jake thought they had one big weakness. They always fought the same way. They used the same tactics that had worked for hundreds of years. They never changed or tried new things. Humans were different. When humans could not win with strength, they used their brains. When they could not win with better weapons, they found new ways to fight. Jake hoped that would be enough. "Captain," Amy said, "they are trying to talk to us." "Put them on the main screen," Jake said. The screen filled with the image of a Zephyrian captain. His blue skin was covered with the gold markings that showed his high rank. His 4 eyes looked at Jake with contempt. "Human vessel," the alien said in perfect English. "You are in Zephyrian space without permission. Shut down your engines and prepare to be boarded. If you cooperate, we will not harm you." Jake stood up and tried to look scared. Please, we do not want any trouble. Our engines are broken, and we got lost. We were just trying to find our way home." The Zephyrian captain laughed. It was not a nice sound. "Your ship will be taken to one of our bases. Your crew will be questioned. If you are useful, you will be allowed to live as servants of the Empire." "What if we refuse?" Jake asked, still pretending to be afraid. "Then you will die," the alien said simply. "Choose quickly, human. My patience is limited." Jake looked around his bridge at his crew. Lisa was ready at the engineering station. Danny had his hands on the weapon controls. Amy was monitoring all the alien communication channels. They were all waiting for his order. For 300 years, no one had been able to challenge the Zephyrian Empire. They had taken over dozens of worlds and enslaved millions of people. They thought they were unbeatable because their sensors could see everything, and their weapons could destroy anything. But their sensors had never seen a ship like the Defiance, and they had never fought an enemy like humans. "We surrender," Jake said to the alien captain. "Please do not hurt us." The Zephyrian smiled, showing sharp teeth. "A wise choice. Maintain your position. We will be with you shortly." The screen went black. Jake sat back down in his chair and looked at his crew. In a few minutes, everything would change. The Zephyrians thought they were capturing a helpless cargo ship. Instead, they were about to learn that humans did not fight like other species. They were about to learn what happened when the Empire's sensors failed to see the truth. The 3 Zephyrian destroyers moved into position around the Defiance, like hungry wolves surrounding their prey. Each ship was 3 times larger than the human vessel, their dark metal hulls covered with weapon ports and sensor arrays. Captain Zixmora commanded the lead ship, the Stellar Predator. She was an experienced warrior who had captured hundreds of ships over her long career. Jake Morrison watched the alien ships on his screen and waited. His crew was ready, but they had to time everything perfectly. If they moved too soon, the Zephyrians might escape and warn their fleet. If they waited too long, boarding parties would come aboard and discover their secret. "Captain," Lisa Park whispered from her engineering station, "their sensors are scanning us again. The scramblers are working perfectly. They still see us as a broken cargo ship." Lisa's sensor scramblers were more than just simple jamming devices. They were learning machines that studied how alien scanners worked, and then fed them false information. For months, they had been recording Zephyrian sensor patterns from hidden observation posts. Now those months of careful study were about to pay off. The Zephyrians saw exactly what Lisa wanted them to see: weak engines, basic weapons, and hull damage that made the ship look helpless. They had no idea that beneath the fake readings, the Defiance was one of the most advanced ships humans had ever built. "Human captain," came the voice of Zixmora over the radio, "prepare to receive our boarding party. Any resistance will result in the destruction of your ship." "Please," Jake said, making his voice shake with fear. "We have families back home. We were just carrying medical supplies to the outer colonies. We got lost when our navigation computer broke." Zixmora laughed. "Medical supplies? How convenient. Our empire has great need for healers. Perhaps some of your crew will prove useful in our hospitals." Amy Brooks was listening to all the Zephyrian radio channels at once. Her translation computer was picking up conversations between the 3 ships. The alien captains were already arguing about who would get the best prisoners and the most valuable cargo. "They are launching boarding shuttles," Amy reported quietly. 2 shuttles, 6 soldiers each. Jake nodded. This was the moment they had planned for. The Zephyrians were so confident in their superiority that they were sending only 12 soldiers to capture his ship. They thought humans were weak and primitive, unable to fight back against the mighty empire. "Lisa," Jake said softly, "begin phase 1. Lisa's fingers moved across her controls like a concert pianist playing a complex song. Deep inside the Defiance, hidden systems came to life. The sensor scramblers changed their pattern, preparing for what came next. The ship's real engines began to warm up, their energy carefully hidden behind layers of false readings. The boarding shuttles were halfway to the Defiance when Jake gave the second order. Amy, jam their communications. Danny, bring all weapons online. Lisa, drop the masquerade. Everything happened at once. Amy's communication jammers filled the space around them with electronic noise, cutting off the alien ships from each other. Danny's weapon systems powered up, hidden gun ports opening along the Defiance's hull, and Lisa shut down the sensor scramblers that had been hiding their true nature. The change was dramatic. One moment, the Zephyrian sensors showed a dying cargo ship. The next moment, they saw something impossible. A sleek warship crackling with energy signatures that should not exist. The Defiance's true shape revealed itself as fake hull panels fell away, showing weapons and engines far more advanced than anything in the Zephyrian fleet. Captain Zixmora stared at her sensor readings in shock. "This is impossible," she said to her bridge crew. "Their technology level just increased by a factor of 10. How can this be?" Her weapons officer was equally confused. "Captain, I am reading power signatures that are off our charts. This ship is not what we thought it was." "Then destroy it," Zixmora screamed. "All ships, open fire." But the humans had prepared for this moment. Danny Cole had spent years studying Zephyrian weapon patterns and shield frequencies. The moment the alien ships began to fire, he was ready. The Defiance moved like a dancer. Its gravity drive, a human invention the Zephyrians had never seen before, allowed it to change direction instantly without the slow turns that normal engines required. Laser beams that should have hit their target passed harmlessly through empty space. Danny returned fire with weapons the aliens had never encountered. Instead of energy beams or plasma bolts, the Defiance shot solid metal slugs accelerated to incredible speed. These kinetic rounds passed right through Zephyrian shields, which were designed to stop energy weapons, not physical projectiles. The first destroyer took 3 hits to its engine section. Explosions lit up its hull as critical systems failed. The second ship tried to turn away, but Danny was faster. His next shots punched through the alien ship's weapon ports, turning its own guns into scrap metal. "Impossible," Zixmora shouted as she watched 2 of her ships crippled in less than a minute. "No primitive species has weapons like this." Jake Morrison stood calmly on his bridge, watching the battle. "We are not primitive," he said, though he knew the aliens could not hear him through Amy's jamming. "We are just different." The third destroyer, Zixmora's own ship, tried a desperate move. Instead of fighting at long range, she ordered her ship to ram the human vessel. If her weapons could not penetrate their defenses, maybe her ship's superior size would crush them. Lisa Park saw the attack coming and smiled. This was exactly what she had hoped for. As the massive alien ship charged toward them, she activated the Defiance's most secret weapon, a gravity field manipulator that could create artificial gravity wells in space. The Zephyrian destroyer suddenly found itself caught in a gravity field that pulled it sideways. Instead of ramming the human ship, it spun helplessly through space, its crew thrown around inside their ship by forces they could not understand or control. "All alien vessels," Jake said over the radio, his voice calm and strong. "This is Captain Morrison of the human vessel Defiance. Your ships are disabled. Surrender now, and your crews will not be harmed." Zixmora could barely speak. Her ship was spinning slowly through space, its weapons offline and its engines damaged. Around her, the other 2 destroyers were drifting helplessly, their proud crews defeated by a single human ship. "This cannot be happening," she whispered. "The Empire has ruled for 3 centuries. No one can defeat us." But as she watched the small human ship move gracefully between her destroyed vessels, Zixmora realized that something had changed in the galaxy. These humans were not like the other species the Empire had conquered. They fought with weapons and tactics no one had ever seen before. And somewhere in the depths of space, other Zephyrian sensors were picking up the distress signals from the 3 destroyers. Soon, the entire Empire would know that their sensors had failed to detect a new kind of enemy. The age of Zephyrian dominance was about to face its greatest challenge. Fleet Commander Vexthera stood in the command center of her flagship, the Shadowbane, staring at the report in disbelief. The massive ship was the pride of the Zephyrian Empire, armed with enough weapons to destroy entire planets. Around her, dozens of officers worked at their stations, managing the largest battle fleet ever assembled in this sector of space. "Read it again," she ordered her communications officer. "3 destroyers lost to a single human vessel," the officer repeated. "The Stellar Predator, Iron Fang, and Death's Edge, all disabled within minutes. Captain Zix Mora reports that the human ship used unknown technology and weapons, unlike anything in our databases." Vexthera S4 arms moved restlessly as she thought she was old, even by Zephyrian standards, and had commanded fleets for over a century. In all that time, she had never heard of any species defeating 3 Empire ships with a single vessel. It was impossible. The humans must have stolen our technology, she decided. Or perhaps they made an alliance with the Corvani rebels. There is no other explanation. Her tactical officer, a young Zephyrian named Mordax, looked up from his screens. "Commander, I have studied the battle recordings from the surviving ships. The human weapons appear to be kinetic projectiles, not energy-based like ours. And their movement patterns suggest they have some form of gravity manipulation technology." "Gravity manipulation?" Vexthera laughed bitterly. "That is theoretical science, not practical technology. No species has ever managed to create stable, artificial gravity fields for use in combat." But even as she said the words, doubt crept into her mind. The Zephyrian Empire had ruled this part of space for 300 years, because their technology was superior to everyone else's. Their sensors could detect any ship, their weapons could destroy any target, and their tactics had been perfected through countless victories. Yet somehow, a single human ship had made 3 of her destroyers look like helpless children. "Assemble the 3rd battle fleet," she ordered. 20 ships, including 4 heavy cruisers. We will hunt down this human vessel and discover their secrets. "Yes," Commander Mordax replied. "Should we also request reinforcements from the 2nd Fleet?" "No," Vexthera said firmly. 20 ships should be more than enough to deal with one primitive vessel, no matter what tricks they have learned." Meanwhile, the USS Defiance was already far from the battle site, moving through space like a ghost. Captain Jake Morrison had ordered his ship to jump to a new location as soon as the fight was over. They had left the 3 disabled Zephyrian destroyers behind, but not before Amy Brooks had downloaded their entire computer databases. "What did we learn?" Jake asked, as his crew gathered in the ship's small briefing room. Amy spread holographic displays around the table, showing maps of Zephyrian space and fleet movements. Their entire military command structure runs through a central network called the Tactical Web. Every ship, every base, every patrol route is coordinated through this system. Lisa Park studied the technical specifications that Amy had stolen. "Look at this," she said, pointing to a section of alien code. "Their computers are incredibly advanced, but they all use the same basic protocols. If we could find a way to access the Tactical Web, we could see everything they are doing." Danny Cole was more interested in the weapon specifications. "Their shields are designed to stop plasma and laser weapons, but they have almost no protection against solid projectiles. Our kinetic guns went through their defenses like they were made of paper." Jake nodded. This information was exactly what Earth needed to plan humanity's expansion into this sector. But first, they had to survive long enough to get the data home. "Amy, what are you picking up on the communication channels?" "Bad news, Captain. They are assembling a major fleet to hunt us down. 20 ships, including some really big ones. and they are using a search pattern that will make it hard for us to hide. Jake walked to the window and looked out at the stars. His little ship had won one battle, but the war was just beginning. The Zephyrian Empire would not give up easily. They would send more ships, bigger ships, until they found the Defiance and destroyed it, unless Jake could find a way to turn their strength against them. Lisa, how long would it take you to modify our sensor scramblers? For what purpose, Captain? I want to feed false information into their tactical web. Make them see things that are not there. Make them go where we want them to go. Lisa's eyes lit up with understanding. You want to hack their entire command network. Captain, that is incredibly dangerous. If they detect what we are doing, they will know exactly where we are. But if it works, Danny said slowly, we could turn their own fleet against them. Over the next 3 days, the Defiance played a deadly game of hide-and-seek with the Zephyrian fleet. The human ship would appear on their sensors for just a few minutes, long enough to attack a patrol ship or destroy a communication relay, then vanish again before reinforcements could arrive. Each attack provided more information about Empire technology and tactics. Lisa worked day and night to adapt their systems, learning how to mimic Zephyrian communication protocols and sensor signatures. Amy monitored every radio channel, building a complete picture of how the enemy fleet was organized. Vexthera grew more frustrated with each failed attempt to corner the human ship. Her officers reported sensor contacts that disappeared when they arrived to investigate. Her patrol ships were being picked off one by one, always when they were alone and vulnerable. How can one ship be so elusive? She demanded during a strategy meeting. Our sensors are the best in the galaxy. Our ships are faster than anything these primitives should be able to build. Mordax had been studying the attack patterns. Commander, I believe the humans are not fighting like other species. They do not try to meet us in open battle. Instead, they strike quickly and run away. They are using hit-and-run tactics. Cowardly tactics, Vexthera spat. When I find them, I will show them how real warriors fight. But Jake Morrison was not being cowardly. He was being smart. Every attack was carefully planned to gather intelligence and test new theories. His crew was learning how the Zephyrian fleet operated, finding weaknesses in their formations and gaps in their sensor coverage, and slowly, a plan began to form in Jake's mind. Amy, he said on the 4th day, I need you to send a false message through the Zephyrian communication network. Make it look like their sensors have detected a large human fleet entering this system. Captain, that is very risky. If they realize the message is fake, they will not realize it if you do it right. Make the fleet appear to be heading for the Corax asteroid field. That should get their attention. The asteroid field was a dangerous maze of spinning rocks and gravitational anomalies. Most ships avoided it because navigation was nearly impossible. But Jake had spent weeks studying the area, learning its patterns and finding safe routes through the chaos. If he could lure the Zephyrian fleet into the asteroid field, he might be able to turn their superior numbers into a disadvantage. In open space, 20 ships could surround and destroy the Defiance easily. But in the cramped confines of the asteroid field, they would have to come at him 1 or 2 at a time. Amy sent the false message through channels that would make it look like it came from a Zephyrian deep space sensor post. Within hours, Vexthera's entire fleet was racing toward the asteroid field, eager to finally corner the human fleet they thought they had found. Jake watched them coming on his long-range sensors and smiled grimly. The hunters were about to become the hunted. The Corax asteroid field stretched across space like a graveyard of broken worlds. Thousands of rocks, some as small as houses, and others as large as cities, spun through the darkness in chaotic patterns. The gravitational forces between them created invisible rivers of force that could crush a ship or fling it into a collision course with solid rock. Fleet. Commander Vexthera stood on the bridge of the Shadowbane as her 20 ships approached the edge of the field. Her sensors showed multiple contacts deep inside the asteroid maze. What appeared to be a significant human fleet trying to hide among the rocks. "Finally," she said with satisfaction. "These humans think they can hide from us in this cosmic junkyard. They will learn that the Empire's reach extends everywhere." Captain Jake Morrison watched the Zephyrian fleet from his hiding place inside a hollow asteroid. The Defiance was powered down to minimum levels, its heat signature masked by the cold rock around it. Only passive sensors were running, making the ship nearly invisible to anyone scanning the area. 20 ships, just like Amy predicted, Danny Cole whispered. They really took the bait. Lisa Park was busy at her engineering station, making final preparations for the trap they had spent days setting up. Hidden throughout the asteroid field were small devices she had built from spare parts and salvaged Zephyrian technology. Each device could generate false sensor readings, making it look like ships were present where only empty space existed. "The decoys are ready, Captain," Lisa reported. "When you give the word, I can make it look like we have 50 ships hiding in here." Amy Brooks was monitoring Zephyrian communications as their fleet entered the asteroid field. The alien commanders were confident, even excited about finally cornering their elusive enemy. They had no idea they were flying into a carefully prepared trap. "They are splitting up into smaller groups," Amy reported. "Looks like they want to search the fields for groups of 5 ships each." This was exactly what Jake had hoped for. In open space, 20 ships fighting together would overwhelm the Defiance in minutes. But by splitting their forces, the Zephyrians had given the humans a chance to even the odds. "Begin Phase 1, Jake ordered. Lisa activated the first set of decoy devices. Suddenly, Zephyrian sensors throughout the field lit up with contacts. False ships appeared on their screens, moving between asteroids in patterns that looked like a fleet trying to escape. "Contact!" shouted the communications officer aboard the Shadowbane. "Multiple human vessels, Sector 7. They are attempting to flee toward the outer edge of the field. Pursue them," Vexthera ordered. "Do not let them escape." The nearest group of Zephyrian ships, led by the heavy cruiser Iron Will, changed course to intercept what they thought was a group of human vessels. They pushed their engines hard, racing through the dangerous maze of spinning rocks to catch their prey before it could reach open space. But as they closed in on the sensor contacts, the Iron Will's captain realized something was wrong. "These readings are not consistent," he reported to his bridge crew. "I am detecting ships, but I cannot see them visually." Before he could warn the rest of the fleet, the real attack began. The Defiance emerged from its hiding place like a predator striking from ambush. Danny Cole had studied the asteroid field for weeks, learning how to use the gravitational forces as weapons. As the Iron Will passed close to a large spinning rock, Danny fired the gravity manipulator. The asteroid's rotation suddenly accelerated, its gravitational field becoming unstable. The Iron Will, caught in the unexpected force, was pulled off course and slammed into a smaller rock. Its hull cracked open like an egg, atmosphere and debris spilling into space. "Ghost contact." The captain of another Zephyrian ship screamed over the radio. "The human ships are not where our sensors say they are." But his warning came too late. The Defiance was already moving to its next target, using the asteroids themselves as cover and weapons. Lisa had discovered that technology relied heavily on quantum entanglement networks that linked their ships together. By disrupting these networks with precisely timed gravitational pulses, she could blind entire groups of ships at once. The second cruiser, the Starhammer, found itself cut off from the fleet's communication network just as Danny launched a barrage of kinetic rounds. The metal slugs bounced off asteroids in calculated patterns, hitting the alien ship from angles that should have been impossible. Amy Brooks was working her own kind of magic, infiltrating the Zephyrian command network and feeding false information to their tactical computers. Ships that thought they were pursuing human vessels found themselves chasing empty space. Others received orders to change course, only to discover they were heading straight into asteroid collisions. This is impossible, Vexthera shouted as she watched her carefully organized fleet fall into chaos. Half her ships were reporting system failures or navigation problems. The other half were chasing sensor ghosts that vanished whenever they got close. Captain Mordax was studying the tactical display with growing alarm. Commander, I believe we are not fighting a fleet. I think there is only one human ship, but it is using the asteroids and our own technology against us. One ship. Vexthera could not believe what she was hearing. One ship is doing this to my entire fleet. As if to answer her question, the Defiance suddenly appeared on her main screen, emerging from behind a massive asteroid like a ghost materializing from thin air. The human ship looked tiny compared to her mighty flagship, but Jake Morrison's voice came through clearly on the communication channel. Fleet Commander Vexthera, he said calmly, you have lost 8 ships and have 12 remaining. Your forces are scattered and confused. I am offering you one chance to surrender and withdraw from this system. Vexthera stared at the small human ship in rage and disbelief. In 30 minutes, this single vessel had turned her powerful fleet into a broken, scattered group of confused and damaged ships. Her officers were looking at her, waiting for orders, but she could barely think straight. How? She whispered. How is this possible? Jake's voice was patient, almost gentle. Commander, your empire has ruled through fear and superior technology for 3 centuries. You have forgotten that intelligence and adaptability can overcome any advantage. We do not fight like you expect us to fight, around the Shadowbane. The surviving Zephyrian ships were trying to regroup, but the asteroid field made coordination nearly impossible. Every time they thought they had found the human ship, it vanished again, only to appear somewhere else and strike another target. Danny Cole had turned the entire asteroid field into a weapon, using gravitational forces to accelerate rocks and improvised missiles. Lisa Park had created a network of false sensor readings that made it impossible for the aliens to tell what was real and what was illusion. Amy Brooks had hacked so deeply into their communication systems that she was practically controlling their fleet better than they were. This is not warfare, Vexthera said, her voice shaking with anger and fear. This is some kind of sorcery. No, Jake replied. This is just humans, being human. We adapt, we improvise, we use whatever we have to win. The fleet commander looked around her bridge at the faces of her officers. For the first time in her long career, she saw something she had never seen before in Zephyrian eyes: doubt. Her people were starting to question whether the Empire was really as invincible as they had always believed. All ships, she ordered through gritted teeth, converge on my position. We will make our final stand here. Jake Morrison smiled as he heard the order. The proud fleet commander was doing exactly what he had hoped she would do. Instead of retreating to fight another day, she was gathering her remaining ships together for one last desperate battle, and that was exactly where he wanted them. The 12 surviving Sephorian ships formed a defensive circle around the Shadowbane in the center of the asteroid field. Fleet Commander Vexthera had chosen a relatively clear area of space where the rocks were smaller and more spread out. She hoped this would prevent the humans from using the asteroids as weapons against her remaining forces. All ships, maintain formation, she ordered over the communication network. When the human vessel appears, focus all fire on it. Do not let it escape this time. Captain Jake Morrison watched the alien formation from his hiding place behind a massive spinning rock. The Zephyrians had done exactly what he expected. They had grouped together for mutual protection, thinking that their combined firepower would overwhelm any single enemy ship. But Jake had one more surprise for them. Amy, are you ready? He asked. Amy Brooks nodded from her communication station. All systems are in place, Captain. This is going to be quite a show. For the past week, while they had been fighting their running battle with the Zephyrian fleet, Amy had been secretly installing hidden transmitters throughout the asteroid field. These devices had been broadcasting false sensor readings and communication signals, but they had another purpose that the aliens had never suspected. "Lisa, begin the separation sequence," Jake ordered. Chief Engineer Lisa Park smiled as she activated the most secret feature of the USS Defiance. The ship began to vibrate and hum as hidden mechanisms came to life throughout its structure. Sections of the hull started to move apart, revealing that what appeared to be a single vessel was actually something much more complex. The Defiance was not one ship, it was 12 ships that could lock together to appear as a single larger vessel. Each section had its own engines, weapons, and life support systems. Each could operate independently under the control of a different crew member, as the ship separated into its component parts. Jake's crew took their positions. Lisa took control of the engineering section, which was armed with the gravity manipulators and electronic warfare systems. Danny commanded the weapons module, bristling with kinetic cannons and missile launchers. Amy controlled the communications and sensor pod, equipped with the most advanced scanning and jamming equipment humans had ever built. The other crew members each took command of their own small warships, turning Jake's single vessel into a complete battle fleet in the space of minutes. "Impossible," whispered Captain Mordax, as the Zephyrian sensors registered what was happening. "One ship has become 12 ships. How can this be?" Vextera stared at her screens in shock as the human formation took shape around her fleet. But instead of attacking from outside their defensive circle, the humans had somehow appeared inside it. Her ships were surrounded from within their own formation. "All ships, emergency dispersal," she screamed. "Break formation and engage individual targets." But it was too late. Jake Morrison had positioned his forces perfectly. As the Zephyrian ships tried to turn and fight, they found themselves firing past each other, their shots hitting friendly vessels as often as enemy ones. The tight defensive formation that was supposed to protect them had become a trap. Lisa Park activated her electronic warfare systems, sending cascading failures through the Zephyrian computer networks. Ships that tried to target the humans found their weapons pointing at their own allies instead. Navigation systems failed, sending vessels spinning helplessly through space. Danny Cole unleashed everything he had. His kinetic weapons tore through alien hulls like paper, while his missiles homed in on engine ports and weapon systems. But he was careful to disable rather than destroy. Jake had given specific orders to minimize casualties. Amy Brooks was fighting her own battle in cyberspace, turning the Empire's greatest strength against them. The tactical web that connected all Zephyrian forces became a weapon in her hands. She sent false orders that confused enemy commanders and redirected their fire away from human targets. The other human ships struck with precision and coordination that the aliens had never seen before. Instead of fighting like individual vessels, they operated as a single organism with 12 different parts. When one ship was threatened, the others moved to protect it. When a target was identified, the closest ship would attack while the others provided cover and support. In less than 10 minutes, the proud Zephyrian fleet was reduced to helpless scrap. Ships drifted through space with their engines destroyed and their weapons offline. Some had lost power completely and were running on emergency life support. Others spun slowly through the asteroid field, their navigation systems hopelessly confused. Only the Shadowbane remained operational, and even it was heavily damaged. Vexthera stood alone on her bridge as her officers worked frantically to restore power to their failing systems. Around her, emergency lights flickered and sparks fell from damaged control panels. The 12 human ships reformed into their single configuration and approached the crippled flagship. Jake Morrison's face appeared on the main screen.com and patient, despite the battle that had just ended. "Fleet Commander," he said quietly, "your fleet is defeated. Your ships are disabled, but your crews are alive. I am prepared to offer terms for your surrender." Vexthera looked around her ruined bridge, then back at the human captain. In all her years of service to the Empire, she had never imagined that she would be the one receiving surrender terms from a defeated enemy. "What terms?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Your ships will be repaired and allowed to return to Zephyrian space," Jake said. "Your crews will be given medical treatment and food, but in exchange, you will carry a message to your Empire." "What message?" Jake was quiet for a moment, choosing his words carefully. "For 300 years, your Empire has ruled through fear and conquest. You have enslaved other species because you believed your technology made you superior. But today, you have learned that technology is not enough. Intelligence, creativity, and cooperation can overcome any advantage." He paused, looking directly into Vexthera's eyes through the screen. "Humanity does not seek to replace your empire with our own. We do not want to rule over other species, but we will not allow you to rule over us either. The galaxy is big enough for all of us to coexist, but only if we treat each other with respect." Vexthera stared at the human captain in amazement. She had expected death or enslavement, the traditional fate of those who opposed the Empire. Instead, this alien was offering mercy and proposing a new kind of relationship between their species. "The Empire will not accept this," she said finally. "They will send more fleets, bigger fleets." "Perhaps," Jake agreed. "But word of this battle will spread. Other species will learn that the Empire can be defeated. They will begin to question your authority, to demand their freedom. And when they do, humanity will be there to help them." Over the next 3 days, Jake kept his promise. His crew worked alongside Zephyrian engineers to repair the damaged alien ships. Medical supplies were shared freely, and no one was harmed or imprisoned. The defeated fleet was allowed to gather its disabled vessels and begin the long journey home. As the Shadowbane prepared to leave the asteroid field, Vexthera sent one final message to the Defiance. "Captain Morrison," she said, "I do not understand. Your species. You had us completely defeated, yet you chose mercy over victory. Why?" Jake smiled sadly. "Because, Commander, we remember what it was like to be powerless. We remember being the ones who needed mercy. And we hope that someday, your Empire will remember too." The Zephyrian fleet limped away into the darkness, carrying with them the news that would shake the foundations of their empire. For the first time in 3 centuries, someone had stood up to their might and won. The news would spread from world to world, inspiring hope in the hearts of enslaved peoples everywhere and in the depths of space. The USS Defiance set course for home, its mission complete. They had proven that humanity could not only survive in this hostile galaxy, but thrive. The Empire's sensors had failed to detect the true nature of their enemies, and now the entire balance of power was about to change. Jake Morrison stood on his bridge and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, Earth was waiting for his report. Soon, humanity would begin its expansion into this sector, bringing with them not conquest and domination, but hope for a better future. The age of the Zephyrian Empire was ending. The age of cooperation and freedom was about to begin, and it had all started with a single moment when the Empire's sensors failed to see what was really there, not just a cargo ship, but the future itself, decloaking and ready to change the galaxy forever.